You're insinuating that Trump may be intentionally letting FISA lapse in order to execute his own.
Whether it's
agenda?
intentional or not, he's going to push forward everything as a threat. Everything is a threat that he can solve, and therefore he needs to bring in a hammer, whether it's ICE or National Guard troops in D.C. or, attacking Cuba, continuing to attack Iran. It's centralizing around this idea of him as the authoritarian who can exert power, and Congress should just stay out of his way, and they haven't been able to stop him on anything.
Welcome to Independent Americans. Welcome to episode 548. Happy Friday. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. It has been a wild, weird, harrowing week all across this country with everything from Iran to Trump's upcoming UFC fight to the Knicks. But it has been another week that requires vigilance. We're going to end it with a special episode featuring my conversation yesterday on MSNBC/MS Now. It's called MS Now. But I had a great conversation with Ariel for my weekly visit about a whole range of topics that will get you up to speed on the latest for this Friday and help take you into your weekend with, I hope, a little bit of light to contrast the heat. We will be back with new episodes on Monday. More guests are coming up. Be sure to follow us on YouTube if you don't already. Be sure to watch Team USA in the World Cup matchup tonight, 9 o'clock against Paraguay. Watch, of course, the Knicks hopefully take out the Spurs tomorrow night. Watch or don't watch the UFC on Sunday night, but I will be covering it on Monday. I will have coverage on CNN tonight if you want to tune in for me with Aaron Burnett. And of course, we're always on social media and at independentamericans.us. But here it is, a special Friday Pop media episode to take you into your weekend with a little vigilance and I hope some perspective and analysis. Until Monday, happy Friday. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Team USA. And let's stay vigilant. Have a great weekend.
What do you make of that, Paul? The fact that it seems like, even if he doesn't have intelligence experience, some Democrats are now embracing him in this role. Is that a sign that they were just so frustrated with the idea of Bill Pulte that they're willing to accept this option? Or do they genuinely have, does it seem, faith in Clayton?
I think it could be both. But I think at the end of the day, Trump's rolling. And it doesn't seem like Congress can slow down or stop anything he's doing. This would have been an opportunity on Pulte for the Senate and Senate Republicans to finally try to stop him on something coming out of the momentum around the $1.8 billion slush fund for insurrectionists and domestic terrorists, right? But I think what you have here is Trump putting forward an attack dog. He's made that clear. He wants to attack the integrity of the elections. He wants to try to slow down, I think, free and fair elections. And that's really the circuit breaker that we should all be looking for between now and November. And anything that's focused on that or anyone that's focused on that should require tremendous scrutiny, especially someone with, I think, no intelligence experience whatsoever. I think we have to remind people that they're also responsible for leading the intelligence community in this country, a heroic group of men and women, and they deserve to have someone in experience, especially if you look over at the FBI, where we've had this problem before.
And some would say the Pentagon as well. Given the threat environment we find ourselves in, how concerning would that be?
I think Trump's going to make it be very concerning. I think they're going to continue to escalate the overall focus on the threat environment. You're coming out of some violence in New York City around the Knicks, right? Celebrating. I think that may accelerate. You've got the World Cup coming. You've got essentially 40 Super Bowls happening around the country. Hegseth is down in Guantanamo talking about threats from Cuba.
We have a war in Iran.
Yeah, this could be a summer of violence. And I think Minneapolis, in many ways, was a test case. I think we could see ICE going into other cities. Trump is talking explicitly about New York and Chicago. Markwayne Mullin is now picking a fight with Mamdani. I think we've got some potential violence brewing in this country, and that might be what Trump wants. He's talked about invoking the Insurrection Act. We have to assume that that is on path, and he does want to slow down and disrupt the fall elections. And this summer is a powder keg in many ways, especially in blue cities and especially in cities around the World Cup and other incidents like that.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're insinuating that Trump may be intentionally letting FISA lapse in order to execute his own.
Whether it's intentional or not, he's going to push forward everything as a threat. Everything is a threat that he can solve, and therefore he needs to bring in a hammer, whether it's ICE or National Guard troops in D.C. or, attacking Cuba, continuing to attack Iran. It's centralizing around this idea of him as the authoritarian who can exert power, and Congress should just stay out of his way. And they haven't been able to stop him on anything. They didn't stop him on Venezuela. They didn't stop him on Iran. They can't stop him on Cuba. They can't stop him from deploying troops in the U.S. And I think that could be a real flashpoint for us throughout the summer.
How does this read with voters? How does all of this play out with the president's base? Do they see this as his way to consolidate, his own power? Do they not like what they're seeing as far as the whiplash that we're seeing when it comes to nominations for an important position like
what
this?
I'm seeing, especially from independents that I talk to, is everybody's exhausted. They're so sick of all of it, and the summer's here, and they want to kind of step back and get a break before what they know will be a very, contentious and divisive fall election. But I don't think we're going to have any days off. I think people want to get away from the news, and they want to step away. They don't have faith in the president, but they also don't have faith in the Democrats, and they're looking for voices, especially from the national security community, that can step forward and give them trust. This guy's not going to do that. He doesn't come from the military. He doesn't come from the intelligence space. He may be an easy pass in the Senate, but I don't think he's the kind of person that's going to make most Americans sleep better at night.
Is it more concerning to have FISA lapse or to have election integrity questioned? You already saw the shades of it, saying there could be potential for it.
I think the election integrity and attack and strategy questioning by Trump is the whole ballgame. It is the circuit breaker that everyone in America and everyone in the world is counting on to slow him down, to provide checks and balances. But it's not a given. And now you see the Democrats finally starting to put forward a strategy to try to challenge him on that. He said he will attack the elections. His minions have said that. Steve Bannon has said that. We have to have a strategy to combat him on that. That's got to be in the courts. It's got to be in Congress. And it's got to be in the public opinion as well. He's also going to look toward New York City at the end of this month, where you're going to have a primary where the left wing, again, the DSA, the Mamdani crew, will probably do well. And that will provide him another opportunity to frame New York, Mamdani, and elections as left and out of step, and he will focus on that specifically.
And there are a lot of Americans out there that still do believe that there was fraud in 2020, that they're looking for fraud in California. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Independent Americans, as you know, the primaries are taking shape. 2026 is unfolding. This show is at the middle of it. I'm helping you stay ahead of it. And you can trade on the biggest political races happening all across America on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade major primaries, election outcomes, and the biggest political storylines as they happen. You can trade on pretty much everything you hear about in this show. In its primary season this week, we have Maine, Nevada, South Carolina, North Dakota. On June 23rd, we will have the New York primary, and this will be in the richest district in America. This is the one that has Jack Schlossberg, Mika Lasher, George Conway, the former Republican. So you can bet on these things. You can bet on these primary races. Will Jack Schlossberg, the heir to the Kennedy legacy, win the New York 12 primary race? Or will George Conway? Right now, Conway is trading at 1%, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $2,950.10 if he wins his election. There's a lot of other really important, timely, and cool political stuff you can bet on. The Senate elections are obviously a very big deal. And there is a question of who will win, not just in Maine, but also in Texas. Will Tallarico beat Ken Paxton in Texas? Right now, Tallarico is currently trading at 42%, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $228.78 if he wins that election. The Texas Senate race is one of many that you can focus on. We've talked about whether Pete Hegseth will last as Secretary of Defense. Will the Strait of Hormuz stay open? You can wager on that one. And then there's also a big one that I may come back to from time to time. Right now, you can bet on who will be the 2028 Democratic and Republican presidential nominee. Right now, Gavin Newsom is leading at 21%. You can wager on an AOC, John Ossoff, Kamala Harris, Rahm Emanuel, Josh Shapiro. You can go down to Mark Kelly or Ro Khanna, or our friend Wes Moore, who's been on this show before. Wes Moore is trading at 2.6%, which means if you bet $100 now on Wes Moore and he wins, you will win $3,638. That's the max payout on November 7th. You can also put money on James Tallarico or Alyssa Slotkin or Mark Cuban or Jon Stewart. You can place your bets now at Kalshi. And we talked about some other things that you can wager on. You can talk about whether or not Trump will attend another finals game. There was a 60% chance last week that Trump would attend an NBA finals game. If you put down $100, you paid out $159.57. And let's bring a new one to you, what I think is a fun one. It's related to technology and science, but also to politics. Will the U.S. confirm that aliens exist? This is definitely a topic of conversation in the White House. It comes up in the news from time to time. Trump loves to talk about it. Will the U.S. confirm that aliens exist before 2027? If you vote yes, it's trading at 13.9%, which means if you wager $100, you will pay out $675.08. This is all the stuff that you can focus on Kalshi, where politics is available for your focus every single day. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use the code INDEPENDENT to get $10 when you trade 10. That is independent, Kalshi, Kalshi, where you can trade on anything, including politics and all the latest from our news headlines. It is fun. And if you watch or listen to this show, you will stay ahead of the curve. 18 and over only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Even contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see Kalshi.com/regulatory. Independent Americans, you can get in on the action right now at Kalshi.
We're not moving forward with the fund. You're right that there's a date that in the case in the East District of Virginia in June, but we are not moving forward with the fund, period.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said that the DOJ was not moving forward with President Trump's anti-weaponization fund, but when asked to put that in writing, he refused. That's because the payout idea has not actually been scrapped, according to new reporting from The Atlantic. They cite 8 sources who all say that officials are exploring whether elements of the fund can be reactivated while also examining alternative arrangements to make sure loyalists get compensated. Joining us now, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Todd Dupree. Jake and Paul still with us. Paul, what should we make of the fact that we were reassured by Todd Blanche that this was dead, and then now it seems it could be resurrected?
You cannot believe anything this government says. And you can't believe anything that Trump says. And the bottom line is he has always been focused on providing payouts. It's not compensation. It's straight up payouts for domestic terrorists and insurrectionists who tried to overthrow the government. And this is, again, part of that larger strategy, in my view, to give a green light to people to stand with him against opposition, to stand with him ahead of the midterms and ahead of future fights. I've called it Plan C. Plan A could be sending in the National Guard, the military. Plan B could be sending in ICE. Plan C would be saying, hey, everybody, the election's a fraud. Go attack it. And this provides financial incentive for people who tried to overthrow our government. It's treasonous, it's unacceptable, and we've got to hold them at the word, but also really dig deeper and not listen to what they're saying.
So should he be sitting this one out?
He doesn't sit anything out. And I think he's going to come after anybody that he can, especially if someone's got any problems. And I think we've got 2 things here. I mean, the Republicans have Trump, and Trump is a disaster. He's despicable. I have nothing to say about his character that is positive. But I think the Democrats have a Platner problem. I think this is resonating with Democrats, but it's not resonating with independents. It's not resonating with Republicans. In a place like Maine that tends to vote independent, independents are going to be the key. And by hitching their wagon to a very flawed candidate, the Nazi tattoo issue is not going to go away. It doesn't sit well with me, and it doesn't sit well with a lot of people. They're trying to fight fire with fire, but I think they're both going downhill, especially with independents.
And speaking of, Democrats, obviously there's been bipartisan backlash to Graham Platner and concern specifically in the Democratic establishment that he's a risky candidate. I do want to play sound from Massachusetts Congressman Jake Auchincloss here.
I don't think Democrats win by accepting a degraded state of affairs. I think we win by elevating and governing from a redefined and more decent center.
Should Democrats be treading much more lightly here? Should they have issued a full-throated rebuke of Platner in the beginning? Or do they need to be careful because voters are embracing him?
Well, I know that they are not a monolith.
Correct.
But I think the party is hurt nationally by Platner tremendously. And I think you've got a contrast in elections where they've won and they've gotten moderates. You've got somebody like Mikey Sherrill that you just had on. She's a helicopter pilot. She's much more moderate politically, which is important. Platner not only has the Nazi tattoos and the Reddit accounts and the remarks, he's also pretty far left. And he's probably too far left for Maine. So there's also a question of whether or not people are willing to accept the Democratic brand. They hate Donald Trump, but they also hate the Democratic brand. I know a lot of folks watching this network don't want to hear that, but it's true, especially in places like Texas where they're trying to win with Tellerico. Platner and Tellerico will be a test, not just of their character, but whether they can overcome the Democratic brand that is increasingly unpopular with independents.
What about the 20% of Mainers, Democratic Mainers, that rejected Platner this time around? He was basically running unchallenged. Janet Mills was still on the ballot, but she had stopped campaigning. So what does it say that 20% rejected him outright? And do you feel like they could join independents and switch to Susan Collins?
It's important, and they could. I think that underscores the problem. I mean, beware the primaries, right? I mean, we have a primary problem in this country where partisan parties are running primaries, right? For the most part, with the exception of California, Washington, and Alaska, where you've got a truly voter-driven primary. And people who come out to primaries, especially in the summer, tend to be the most hardcore right or left. And you're getting increasingly partisan candidates, especially in congressional elections, where 90% of them are done before you get to the general. So you don't even hear from independents in most states until the fall. And I think they're going to speak out loudly, and they're going to, I hope, be a conscience for America in regulating both parties that are going too far to the left and too far to the right.
Paul, it, I think, is exhausting for so many people that this is where we are in our politics. Is character at this point completely off the ballot?
No. And I don't think it ever should be. Integrity still matters. Character still matters. And in the places where you have candidates rising forward with integrity and candor and authenticity, they're breaking through. And there are states that I want to talk about, like Nebraska and Idaho and Montana, where you've got not just Republicans, but you've got independents running who can win where Democrats can't. And I think that their independent veterans are a real source of integrity, inspiration, hope. They are an underreported part of this story in those Senate races and in other races around the country. I think independent veterans who can put both parties aside and put country over politics are going to rise to meet this moment, and they're a source of hope that I'm going to keep my eye on.
How do we fix this? I mean, how do we recruit a better class of politicians?
I think it starts with removing the stranglehold from the parties. I mean, when I work with independent candidates, their biggest challenge at the outset is just getting on the ballot. And they often have to get more signatures than the parties do. They're facing partisan primaries. They don't have party machines and billionaires. We have to allow a level playing field where regular people and real leaders can step forward without selling out to billionaires and party bosses.
So speaking of party allegiances, is it fair for voters on both sides of the spectrum to say, you know, you can't single out a candidate for bad behavior if you're not going to own it on your own soil?
I don't think they look at it necessarily that way. Like, if you're voting in Maine, you're probably tuning out Trump to some extent.
Affordability? It's about the kitchen table issue.
It's about who can connect with you and who can fight for you. If you're in Maine or you're in Montana or you're in Texas, you want someone who can be a fighter in the arena, who can stand for you and your state against everybody. If you're in Montana or Maine, it's Maine versus everybody. You want somebody who can take on the Democrats and take on Donald Trump. And those leaders that can speak with authenticity and realness are resonating. That's what Platner's doing. He's speaking in common terms. He's a populist. And there is a populist movement in this country, and they're hungry. They're starving for real leaders who will meet that moment. I don't think Platner's it, but I think there's a strong bench that's rising up and other names we're going to hear about.
Megan, Paul, you know, this inflation has been driven largely by the war in Iran, by geopolitics. This is a president who said no new wars. How do you square that? How do you square the economic pain we're seeing with what his messaging had been?
His messaging doesn't even matter anymore. I mean, the reality of the Iran war and inflation and pricing is hitting him every single day, and it's hitting Republicans down ballot, and that's why you're seeing them so concerned. The war is overwhelmingly unpopular. The gas prices are overwhelmingly unpopular. Diesel prices, everything is more expensive, and he can't run away from that. This is the thing he can't spin out of, and no matter how many times he says the Iran war is going to be over, his base remembers that he said no new wars. He said no regime change wars, and they're still ongoing. And his base remembers that he was going to bring down the price of milk. And every day they go, the gas prices are still high, and it's going to continue throughout the summer. This is dragging down the Republican brand even more than it's dragging down him. And that's why I think there is an opportunity this fall for the Democrats. I'm not counting on them to take advantage of it, but there is a tremendous opportunity maybe around this more than anything else.
So, okay, so to your point, top of mind for voters, 76% said that they're concerned about personal finances. 77% said their income is not keeping up with inflation. What do Republicans do about this?
I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Are they going to stop Trump from doing anything? Because the reality is that the Iran war has been the ultimate example of how he's all gas and no brakes. And it's not just Iran. I mean, it's Venezuela. He wants to hit Cuba next. He wants to continue to spend billions of dollars in the Middle East while gas prices go up. So the only way to stop this is to stop Trump and slow him down. And Republicans don't seem willing to do that. So he's taking them all off a cliff, especially, again, with independents who are so vital in so many of these swing states.
He tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow. And it's not cool to believe in school, but if I can say one thing, I've seen the children of the revolution and the good trouble they can bring. He says the red and blue are dead and independent is an attitude. An island in the sea of rhetoric and archipelago. He tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow.
Powered by Righteous Media.